Hello and welcome to this introductory training on Intro to Assessments in Mastery Connect. I'm going to give you an overview today of how to use assessments in Mastery Connect, how to set them up, different types, including rubrics and multi-question assessments. We've already gone through how to do raw score assessments, and that you'll find in the Intro to Mastery Connect training. Then from there, we're going to talk about how to actually connect those so students can go and take those assessments, and how you may need to grade some of those afterwards if they're not things that are automatically scored, like a rubric or other types of questions like that. So the way I suggest you get started is always within the map, to add your assessments to the map as often as possible. That avoids you having to add things to multiple trackers for multiple sections over the course of many years. A map can be that kind of hub, that blueprint where you add all of your assessments to and that you share as a team. So under Maps, we're going to go in and find the map that I want to work in, which is called the My ICSD 10th grade language arts map. From here, I'm going to add in an assessment. And so what I'll do is I'll hover over this orange button and click Add Assessment. Now, there are a few options that come up here. One, I can search from the community, which will pull in resources that are aligned to the standards in my map. The other is I can select from my assessments that I've already created. Potentially, I've created them under the Assessments tab at the top in green. Otherwise, I can go in and create a new assessment. That's what I'm going to do. So I click Create New Assessment. You won't see this option for formative assessment versus district benchmark. That's only for district admin. But the rest of this, you will see that it's connected to this map, subject area, core, and class automatically when you do this through the map. You can also choose to assess multiple standards in your map or just one of them. And so you can do that by clicking here. The one standard assessment is much more simple because, and you'll see that in a minute, I'm going to show you the multi-standard just so you've seen that and you're able to work through that. Again, I recommend you going through this with me as I'm doing it, and pause if you need to re-see something, or so you don't feel overwhelmed, and you can go at your own pace. Okay, so multiple standard, I'm going to call this a rubric. For ELA, you might have a better, more specific thing to put in here, and I'm just going to say rubric under the options there. So under assessment source, there's a lot of different options. There includes an option to upload a file from my computer, a document from my Google Drive, document from my Dropbox, or no document whatsoever. The other item-based ones you'll see in the item authoring and assessments training that'll be available here as well, but not in this training. So you will want to choose where you want to upload that document from. If you have a rubric you want to upload, choose to upload a file here. And so I'm going to upload a file from my computer. Click Upload a File, and I'll choose the file. Here I will choose something resembling a rubric, although I don't have one quite ready for you. Maybe I will choose this thing, which kind of looks like a rubric. Okay, so I will choose that file to upload here. And then what I will do is I will choose the assessment type will be question-based, and I know that sounds funny, but what that means is there will be a certain number of criteria that I can include here in my rubric. So I'm going to choose to offer a rubric criteria assessment with 3 different criteria. Okay, and so that's what I do there. 3 different rubric criteria, and I click Add. Now it gives me the 3 criteria. Allows me to align those to different standards because I chose multiple standard. A single standard assessment would just give all the same. And so I'm going to align one to writing, one to this reading standard, and then one to an essential skill under communication. Okay, so I have those 3 standards of what I'm going to assess here. Maybe I can make them all out of 4. I can change them to all be different if I like, but I'm going to have them all be out of 4. And then it's going to ask me at the very bottom, the last thing I'll do is to select what are the cutoffs for mastery, proficient, approaching. When you have multiple standards like this, it uses the number labels, but if you hover over them, it tells you what those mean. Okay, so 4 would be 4, 3 would be the cutoff for 3, 2 for 2. That seems logical, doesn't it? So I'm going to fill those in. And now I will create the assessment. And this will allow me to, what did I miss here? Oh, I needed to choose that my assessment is not copyrighted so that it can be shared with the community. If I don't want to worry about that, I can keep it private to me, which I'm going to do at this point because this is kind of a dummy rubric. So I click Create Assessment. This assessment then enters my map under those 3 standards, which is kind of cool. So I'll see it, this rubric, under this one writing standard, the one reading standard I chose, as well as the communication standard. It'll show up in all 3. So that's how I create that type of assessment. Let's look at creating a different type of assessment. I'm going to add in a different type of assessment, one with a lot of questions. So I go in and click Create Assessment again. And again, I'm going to keep this as multiple standard. I'm going to say this is a quiz of some kind. And the assessment source, again, I can choose to upload a file for, which I'll do, so that students can see the question document. This would be important because as students go in to take it, this is what they will see as a form of question document. So I'm going to use this one here as our question document per se. And then I'm going to keep it as question based. I'm going to add in some different types of questions. I'll add in 2 multiple choice questions, let's say. I'm then going to also add in, after that, a true-false question. Then I'm going to add in a multiple select, meaning select all that apply type of question. I'm also going to add in a rubric criteria question like what we just did. So I will score that later on a rubric. And then I also have a bubble sheet rubric scoring, which is actually where students kind of rate themselves, if you will. And so they select this. This isn't for teacher to score. So what I will do then is now I have to choose the correct answer. So let's say A is the correct answer here. B is the correct answer for this one. False is the correct answer here. A and C are both right for my multiple select question. Okay, this is a rubric that's out of 4 for this kind of open answer rubric graded question. And then the last one, let's say it's something to self-evaluate where they've been. If they select A, that'll be worth 4. B, that'll be worth 3. C, 2. D, 1. And E, 0. Let's do it that way. Okay, so these can all be aligned to different standards. For this one's sake, let's keep these first 2 at some reading standards. And this one will also be maybe a language standard. Here we'll keep at the we'll keep this one here at the critical thinking standard. And here we will assess writing with our rubric. And lastly, they will self-assess themselves in their critical thinking. Okay, so that's what we've got here for them. We'll see those several standards on this assessment. Now I have to give the cutoffs for each of these for their mastery, proficient, and approaching. So I've made it fairly simple on myself. There's 4 points available in each standard. Let's see here, 4. Oh wait, there's only one point available in each of these. I apologize. I got a little ahead of myself saying the 4, 3, 2, 1. There's only 1 point possible in the standard. So mastery looks like 1. If I put 0 here, what happens is, and which you might be tempted to do, what happens is if a student gets 0, they get proficient, which is not what you want. So instead, if you mark these all as 1, what will happen is if a student gets 1, they are mastering. If they get 0, they're developing. Okay, and so that's what I would suggest you do here. 4 points available here, so I'm going to use the 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 point available here, again, my 1, 1, 1 option. 5 points available here. So, and I can change the points available by question here if I'd rather. So I'm actually going to make this 6 points available here for this one, as there's 2 parts of it, if you will. So then we're going to say 6 is mastery. We're going to say maybe 4 is proficient. And we're going to say 3 is approaching. That's totally up to you based on the assessment type of questions. So now I've created this assessment. Basically, all I've had to do is enter the answer key, if you will. I've made this as complicated as possible so you could see how to do a very complicated assessment on here. You wouldn't need to do all of this. And then I've aligned it to many different standards. Okay, so now I click and create this assessment. I think I forgot to mention that I want to keep this private, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to create the assessment. Okay, so we've created two different types of assessments here. Now what I want to do is apply those updates to my trackers because they're new to the map, so they'll be new to the tracker. So I'll apply those updates. All right, great. Now I'm going to go into that tracker to show you how I would score students on these assessments. And so one of the things I know I need to do is score the rubric for ELA. And I can do that by seeing, I'll see the assessments in my tracker in dark gray here. If I want to assess that rubric, I can just do it right here and click grade. So what will happen is I'll see my list of students here, which I only have one in this course. I'll see the rubric come up here in the center, which of course is a dummy rubric, and I'll be able to assess students based on the rubric. So maybe on first criteria they get a 4, and the next one they get a 3, and on the last one they get a 1. Okay, and then I click to score the assessment. Students' total score comes up, 8 out of 12, 67%, the breakdown by standard right here. Cool, huh? Okay, so that's it. I can edit it if I need to, but I don't, so I'm going to close that. And now, what I'm going to show you is how I would have the students access the quiz I created. So in the quiz I created, I click on Assess. Okay, and in this assessment, you can see the 5 standards that are going to be assessed. I'm actually going to click this little Assess with a paper and an arrow kind of thing going on, and that's going to give me a code that I can then give to my students. You could even just leave this up on the board, or you could link it to Canvas or to another place on a website to allow students to take this. Okay, basically if you don't, they're just going to go into student.masteryconnect.com, enter this test ID 234169, and enter their student ID. You can change the expiration for when this expires to any point, an hour from now to a year from now, or a custom version. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at 7 days for right now, and I'm going to go in and show you how that works. So for my student, the test student I have in here, their ID is really simple. So I'm going to open this up in a new tab, student.masteryconnect.com, and that password again is 234169, so I'm going to add that to the test, 234169, and the student ID is 001. This is what it looks like for a student to go in there. So they go in, they can see the test document, which of course I haven't really made a real test document. They can answer the questions, say they put A, they put B, they put true, they put B and C, and there's one that's teacher graded, which I would have to submit elsewhere in this case. And then lastly, there is question C, which I would, 6, which was a self-rating question if you remember. So I'm going to say I'm a 3 on that. And that would all have to be in the test document, okay? It doesn't show them the question that you had intended here. That's in the test document you've uploaded. So I click Finish now as a student and submit my answers. Great. I've passed in my paper that's going to be teacher graded, and I am done. Okay, so student's done. Teacher then goes in, and now they can see the scores for a student. So I'm going to just refresh this, should be able to see those scores. And before I can see the scores, it asks me to grade, so I can see the final thing. So I'm going to grade that assessment. There was a piece for me to grade. If you recall, it was this criteria 5 question about their writing. So I'm going to give them a 3 on that score. And now all of the questions have been scored. They got 8 out of 13 available points. Shows which standards they've got, which ones they do not have. And that's really powerful. So now I can see all the details. I can see all the pieces that I need to for that student. It's all just right there. So folks, we've gone through how to build assessments, how to deliver them to your students, and how to grade the ones that need to be graded. Hope this has been helpful. Look for further instruction when it comes to item authoring in a future training. Thanks.